Welcome to my tutorial for Air Twister, and this is for the Series X. I also played this game on Switch. I was playing it on the Yuzu emulator for the Switch, but it ran really fucking bad. It was stuttering a lot, and it kept crashing, end game. So I actually spent about 2.5 hours just on that version, and I got some permanent upgrades for my character. I was pretty powered up, but because the game kept crashing, I said fuck it, so I switched over and I just purchased it on Series X. The game's a lot sharper, much better sound, and it runs a hell of a lot smoother, higher frame rate, and it doesn't have any stutters, so much better than playing it on the emulator currently. So it took me around 1 hour 33 minutes to beat this version, but like I said, I had about 2.5 hours on the Switch version, so I was able to beat this on my second full attempt. By full attempt, I mean using all the continues. The game gives you about 2 or 3 continues, and 1 life for each continue. So you can take a few hits. You have a health bar, and you can get some of that health back between stages by getting a high score. Killing a lot of enemies, basically by killing the formations. Which a formation is a group of enemies. So for each formation of enemies you kill, if you complete that formation, you get bonus points for that. So that's how you get a lot of points. And the more points you get for various bonuses that tally up at the end of the stage, which it will show, that's how you get more points. And that's going to replenish some of your health that you lost. So that's a way to get your health up. And in the beginning, you start out with a very low health, maybe 2 or 3 stars of health. And you can actually earn additional health since you don't have a max health. Your health isn't really maxed out yet in the beginning of the game. You got to kind of earn that through permanent unlocks. You use the stars that you earn after you lose your whole run. You can cash in those stars for permanent upgrades and a skill tree, which I'll show at the very end of the tutorial. And those permanent upgrades will make each run will be a little bit easier because you'll be a little bit more powerful each time. So I did fail 1 attempt, but I got it on my second full attempt. But like I said, I already had learned most of the game practice-wise on the Switch version. So, I had, even though I didn't have a lot of upgrades, I was able to beat the game because I learned most of the mechanics. You'll see the first 2 stages I did here, no damage. So, I had a good understanding already about how the game works. And of course, I practiced a lot of the later sections. There was only a few stages I had not experienced yet in the Switch version because the game would crash. So there was maybe 2 or 3 stages I had not tried yet. So stages tend to be about 2 or 3 minutes, maybe if I had to guess, but you got 12 stages. So maybe some of them are a little longer. So one of the biggest things about this game is how you dodge projectiles. This is something that's not explained in the game, and it can be very confusing if you're trying to visually track the projectiles because it's very hard to tell where they're going to end up in the screen. When you look at the, you'll see the projectiles or these rainbow-colored projectiles. It's very hard to see where they're going to actually end up, and that's how you get hit. But the easiest way to deal with it is using audio cues and keeping track of where you last were. So what you want to do is, most of the projectiles in the game are based on your last position when they fired. So you want to listen for the firing sound that the enemies make. There's a distinct sound. You're not going to hear it here in this video because this is just commentary. But there's a distinct sound that the shots actually make when they're fired. And at the time of that shot, wherever your character was at the time that shot was fired off and that sound was made, that's where the bullets are all going to go. So with that in mind, you have to have really good spatial awareness and try to keep track at all times where you last were when the shots were fired off. That's pretty much the whole dodging mechanic of the game for the actual stages themselves and for some of the boss attacks. But some of the boss attacks do kind of deviate from that, so there's some other things you have to learn as far as the boss patterns. But a lot of the bosses do use similar things that other bosses use as far as their attacks, so there are similarities. There's also a very good technique when you're not sure what exactly to do. You can kind of just rotate in circles and keep firing, and that will throw off a lot of the projectiles, but it only works in some scenarios. It's really best to try to keep track of when the shots were fired and move accordingly is the best way to play it that I found. So for this boss, this is 3 dragons you have to kill. The only thing you really need to avoid is don't let them crash into you, and don't let the fireball chain hit into you. But the way their fireballs work is the same as the projectiles that I mentioned, and they fire very infrequently. They don't fire very often, so there's not too much to manage this early in the game. So this is the best time for me to cover all the basics, and I'm gonna show some more of that as far as how to approach everything. So I still got, at this point, I was still no damage, as far as I didn't take any damage in the first, I think, 2 stages. If I remember right, maybe in the 3rd stage I got hit once, but it's possible I got hit twice. I'm not sure. I remember I didn't start taking any damage until maybe the 3rd stage, if I remember right. And that was just, probably some sloppy shit on my part. I mean, it's difficult to play perfectly, obviously, and it gets more dense and aggressively as you get farther into the game. I was only going for a completion, but I already had understood the dodging mechanics pretty well by this point, and I had most of the game practiced by this point. So the early shit was pretty damn easy at this point. But I'm going to reiterate what I said about how to dodge, but I'm going to try to explain it a little bit better. But yeah, it's really, like I said, it's really about spatial awareness as far as listening for that sound when the bullets are fired from the enemy. There's a distinct sound it makes for most attacks. For these obstacles, you just move the way you saw me move, and you won't get hit by the obstacles. You just follow that. It's quite an easy obstacle navigation sequence. You do have to sometimes dodge obstacles and enemies, not just the firing. But the main thing that you're really going to have to watch out for is the enemies, firing attacks and stuff like that. So that's why I feel like it's important to talk about that quite a bit to make sure that you have that down. So like I said, the main thing is the spatial awareness of just understanding. Like, see, I didn't keep track of where I was when those shots were fired. And when it gets really difficult and more complex is when you have enemies firing consistently at different intervals, but all kind of like close to each other. You know what I mean? Like, one enemy fires off a volley of shots, and then the next one is firing off a volley immediately. And they're firing off, at the same time. Different rhythms like that make it more confusing. But if you're really keeping track of when each shot was fired, you'll know where the bullets are going to go. Because they're always going to go, they take a while to get to you, and they're always going to go to your last position. But as you get farther in the game, the bullets are going to move a lot faster. So you're going to have to process all that much, much quicker as you get farther into the game. So it is a gradual difficulty increase. It's pretty well done. But it is important to understand that mechanic with the bullet dodging. If you don't understand that, you're going to have a hard time, knowing where the bullets are actually going to end up going. So that's one of the most important things to know about the game. For this, when these triangles flash yellow, it means go to the other, go either up or down. Don't be where the yellow ones are, because those are going to come out and hit you. Aside from that, you just dodge this enemy's green streams as you would normally dodge the bullets that I mentioned. For the claw swipes, you want to be on the opposite side of where it shows those arrows. That shows where the claw is going to go, those yellow arrows. You want to be on the opposite side each time. Quite easy, and just fire at the head and you'll finish them off. You just want to use your homing shots, which it shows you in the tutorial how to use homing shots. You just highlight your cursor over the enemy or the weak points, and then you just press again to fire the homing shots off. You want to fire homing shots with your regular button mashing shots that you fire off to get the most damage. But later on, you can get a better weapon that you can just pretty much use mostly homing shots. But I don't have that here, so I have pretty basic upgrades at this point in the game because I beat it on my 2nd attempt. I didn't get a chance to upgrade too much. So this is a bonus stage. I don't think anything can hurt you here, but the more shit you kill, the more health you can earn back by getting points. Plus, of course, that is also currency for your permanent upgrades. So you want to do well in these. It helps so that you can buy more health for your next run and buy more various upgrades. So you can try to do good here. The main way to take these things out is to just highlight as many as you can with your homing attack and then release. And also mash the button in between to fire off, some rapid shots to try to hit some of the stragglers in case you don't highlight everything. And it gets a lot easier, like I said, when you have more upgrades, because some of the upgrades are things like being able to highlight more enemies for homing attacks. So, that's a big one. There's a lot of upgrades that help, many different areas. So, yeah, that's pretty much the basics. Like I said, that's going to carry you through most of the game, aside from learning specific boss patterns. You do want to learn those. But the bosses usually are not too complicated once you understand how they work. Some of them are even pretty similar, so sometimes when you learn one, you've pretty much learned another one. But there are some that are quite different. I didn't find any of them to be too difficult once I understood what was going on. I'm definitely going to review this game as well, so I'll be on the lookout for that. I thought this would be a good one to make a tutorial for because it has a decent challenge to it. And there's definitely some mechanics that aren't clear. The dodging isn't really clear. You could spend a lot of time trying to look at where the projectiles are going, and you could, never realize that the projectiles are actually just going to your last location. And if you don't know that, it's going to be a lot harder to try to see what's going on. And because, later on there's going to be a lot of projectiles. So if you don't really understand how the basic mechanics work with them, it's just going to be a fucking mess, and it could be very hard to not get hit. Now, I'm sure if you play the game long enough, you might be able to earn so much fucking health upgrades that maybe it doesn't matter too much if you play well. You might be able to get some really powerful weapons. I don't know because I didn't unlock that much shit. But I think my tutorial will be good because it shows me beating the game with some pretty basic upgrades. I only had one run's worth of upgrades. Like I said, I got it on my second full run on this version, so I think it'll probably be good because it'll show how to do it without too many upgrades. I'm just trying to cover how to beat the game, the main campaign. I think there's some challenge shit you can do too. Maybe that helps unlock stuff faster. It seems to, but I didn't bother with any of that. I'm usually just going for the kill. I like to beat games, so that's all I was going for. But yeah, definitely get this on a modern console. Don't get it on Switch if you can help it. But the Switch version was playable enough on the emulator, but it was stuttering a lot, and then it crashed. So maybe it's a little bit better to play it on an actual Switch console. It might not be that sloppy, but it does play a lot better and a lot smoother though overall on a new console like on a Series X or PS5, maybe PC. So all this is. For this stage, like the easiest way to do this stage is to just kind of go around in circles, either clockwise or counterclockwise, rotating around the screen as you see me doing. And as you're doing that, you're painting these clocks with your homing laser, and then you just hit the homing button to connect with them. And the goal is to take out all the clocks in each wave. After you do that about 3 waves or so, the clock will die. So yeah, what really helps, like I said, is just kind of going around in a circle. Is a pretty easy way to dodge these things. I mean, it may not be perfect. You may want to also look at what's going on. Obviously, don't just blindly go in circles. But if you're having trouble, a circle seems like a pretty effective way to do it. And it's one of the easier bosses. And after you've painted a few waves of clocks and released your homing lasers on them, you'll kill them. Don't forget to mash the button as well, though, to fire rapid shots. I was actually using a scuff controller, not that it matters, but it had trigger locks on it that made the range of motion on the triggers pretty much like mouse clicks. So that was good for rapid fire, but you don't really need that. I mean, you can do that with a regular trigger. So for these spiked balls, they do a similar thing where they're going to go to your last location. But they're harder to dodge because they're so big, so you really got to be aware of where they're going to go. But yeah, like I said, it's really just keeping track of where you last were when that firing sound came out. Now, some of the weapons may not have a firing sound like the spiked balls, so for those, you just got to kind of watch what's going on. You want to try to kill a lot of enemies, and you want to try to kill all the groups of enemies as much as you can, too, because you'll rack up more stars, which, if you fail your run, you can use that to get more upgrades. So, it's going to benefit you in the end. So yeah, these guys are going to fire some aggressive kind of zigzagging patterns of shots. So I did it really sloppy there, but what you would want to do is be on the left side. And another thing you want to do is kind of like bait the shots. You want to maybe be on the left side to bait the shots out so that they come at you from the left side and then move to the right. Then you want to bait the shots to come to the right side of the screen, move back to the left, and just keep repeating that. Usually that works well, but I fucked it up there. But I mean, usually I would bait the shots out. That is another technique for dodging the bullets and stuff, is to just wait somewhere on the screen and wait till you hear that firing sound, and then you know that the bullets are going to go to that location. So that's something I do a lot, is bait the shots out. Because once you understand that the shots go to your last location, and you know that, when you hear that firing sound, wherever you last were, that's where they're going to go. So once you know that, you can bait the shots out and kind of just wait somewhere for the shots to go to an area and then just move. So as you get farther in the game, you're just going to have to do that a lot faster because it gets pretty crowded. So these fireball streams are pretty simple. I think they also go to your last location. Maybe not as effectively as the rainbow colored shots, but they seem to kind of home in on last where you were. So you can do the same kind of thing. I don't think they make like as distinctive a sound when they fire, but if you wait in an area for long enough, they're going to go to that area. So just keep painting the targets, which are homing lasers mainly, and firing some regular shots too. For this, you can just do a circle like we did with the clocks and just keep painting these things and releasing your homing shots. And, if you want to clean some of them up faster, just fire some rapid fire on some of them. Also, if you want to clear them out faster, and if you're having trouble dealing with a lot of projectiles on screen, then, focus on the ones you already damaged the most and try to take those out first. Because the more of those that you eliminate, the less fireballs come at you in that phase. So this is very easy. All you do is circle back and fire on the eyeball with rapid shots. So, get in as many shots as you can and then circle back. And you'll lure the shots out so that they fire off straight through the middle. And then you can just kind of keep circling around, get a few shots in, circle back out, and then circle back in and shoot again, Pretty much hit and run. And it's very easy. And that technique is used on a few bosses. So for this stage, I have to see which stage this was. I don't remember yet. But yeah, the enemies definitely do get more aggressive beyond this point as you get farther into the game. This is probably where it starts to spike a little bit. So yeah, pretty much the same thing. A lot of the patterns are going to be very similar throughout most of the game, so that's why I say it's so important to understand how those projectiles work. So like I said, a lot of times it's good to just bait the shots out and then move to the other side. That's what I'm trying to do here. But yeah, it can be tough when there's a lot of enemies firing at once. It can be tough to keep track of where you last were. But if your awareness is good enough, you can move out of the way. But these come in pretty quick succession, so it can be a little tricky with the spike balls. But they always kind of seem to come in that pattern. I think the spike balls may even be in a fixed shot. Like they may even hit the same part of the screen each time. I'm not sure about those spike balls as far as if they home in on you like the other shots. Sometimes I feel like they do, but other times I feel like they always go in the same place, so I'm not really sure. You can kill these things if you want, but if not, they'll just leave. These are similar to some of that triple boss, those 3 dragons that we fought that fire the streams of fire. It's similar to that, but they don't take as many hits as the boss did. And you can avoid them pretty easily. You probably won't even get hit unless you try to fight them, which then it's easier to get hit. So if you want to play it safe, just leave them alone. So this boss can be a little tricky if you don't understand exactly how it works. For this boss, you have 4 spikes on it that you want to take out. On the top of it, you see right there, there's 4 spikes with like these little purple circles around them. So you want to take those out. If you want to make it easier, take out one of the claws first, because the claws are what's firing all the shit at you. So you can, if you want, if you're having trouble, target one of the claws first, and then you can clean up those things on top of the crab. So you can do it in whatever order you want. You can shoot the claws while they're down like that. You just have to have good aim and get in there. But it is possible. It's easier to shoot it when they're firing at you, but of course you got to also kind of, strike and move. And it's pretty easy to dodge those rocks that the crab throws. Kind of just move around in circles and you can dodge it pretty easily. But try to get a few shots off. You can use your homing lasers or just rapid fire. And once you clear out all those 4 spikes and the 2 claws, now you got to take out all these crabs. The best way to take these out is just keep painting them with your homing lasers and releasing when you've painted a bunch of them. And just keep firing rapidly, and you'll take them out fast. So this could be a little tricky if you don't understand it. See, I went to the wrong side. You don't want to go where the arrows are. Sometimes it throws me off. The arrows show where the claw is going to strike, so you just want to go to the opposite side. And it always alternates sides, so it'll do one side, see it does that side. Now it's going to do the next side, so you go to the other side. And it always does it like that, so... Once you understand that, it's very, very easy to dodge. Even though I've, got sloppy and took a hit, it's very fucking easy. You really don't need to take damage there. So far, I'm still in my first life. I haven't died yet. I died pretty late into the game, and I am going to show the continue screen, but I'm not going to show my failed attempt just because it's going to make the video longer. And, it's not a good demonstration since this is a tutorial, but I did post my unedited run. So you can see exactly where I fucked up if you're interested. And you can hear all the sound of the game and all that shit too, of course. But this is the commentary version, which, when I make them, I just put commentary and that's it. I don't have any game sound or anything like that. It's more of a demonstration. So this stage is actually quite easy. There's not as many enemies as some of the other stages, but the main thing it introduces is you got to dodge these. In these tunnels, you have to dodge the walls in the tunnel. So it's always, as far as I can tell, I think it's always the same arrangement of walls, though. So once you memorize it, you'll know exactly where to move to. You just have to memorize it. I mean, it can be done on reaction, but it's easier if you memorize it. For me, it was kind of a mix. I had it partially memorized. I had an idea of where to move. But see, once you know where to move, it's very easy. But I think those walls will do a lot of damage to you if you hit into them. So, you want to try to avoid that. That's the main danger on this stage. I mean, the enemies are actually easier on this stage than some of the other ones. It's one of the easier stages because it's pretty easy to dodge those walls once you have an idea where they're going to appear. This version played a lot smoother, so I was able to move a lot faster than in the Switch version, at least on the emulator. But yeah, that's all there is really to say with that, is memorization of where the walls are going to pop up and just moving. This is one of the trickier bosses because it's not well indicated on the screen where it's going to shoot. But I'll try to explain it. There is a way to read this boss and know exactly what attack it's going to do. It only does one attack, which is this ink spray, for most of the fight. So I'll explain how that works. If you look in the center of the boss, it looks like it has like a fucking, dick hanging down or something. That's what's going to be attacking you. So based on where that's pointed is where the ink is going to shoot. That's how it works. So see now see how it's pointing upward a little bit? It's like upward and to the side. That means it's going to do an upper sweep of the screen horizontally. Now see how it's pointing down, off to the side, but down? That means it's going to sweep the bottom half of the screen horizontally. Same thing. See, it was pointing up again, so it does up again. Now the other thing it can do is vertical swipe. So if you see it, where it's just dangling straight down, pointed straight down, that little fucking dick thing, it means it's going to do a vertical strike. So it's going to do the vertical half of the screen. So just stay away from those attacks. Look at it like how it's hanging, basically. Aside from that, all you're going to do is paint these things with homing lasers and just keep moving and painting them with homing lasers. Just be aware of where it's going to shoot its ink at. And like I said, it indicates it by the slight positioning changes will indicate where it's going to shoot. So just try to be aware of where it's pointed. It's pretty easy once you understand that. It's pretty simple. So this is going to be the same tactic we did before of hit and run. So what I like to do is just circle around, fire off a few shots, and get out of there. I think I did get hit by this. I got kind of greedy. That's the thing with these phases. It's easy, but it's also easy to be a little bit greedy. And if you're a little sloppy, see I got hit. But if you stay there a little bit too long, it's easy to get hit. I also unlocked a slow motion power kind of move. Like it slows everything down and lets me get extra damage in. I did unlock that in my first run. So I would suggest if you do well in your first run or so, try to unlock that first as a special. It's actually useful. I think I only may have used it like once that I can remember effectively. I used it on one of the bosses, but it was pretty useful. But yeah, that's it. It's pretty much hit and run. I think it looked like I got hit twice there, but it's pretty easy. You just circle around, get some hits in, and then get out of there. And you shouldn't even get hit really if you do it safely. So this is another bonus stage. You can get some of your health back, and you can earn some more stars that you can cash in for some permanent upgrades if you fail. You know, if you lose all your continues. As of now, I'm still on my first life. But it's the same thing here. We're trying to take out the groups by highlighting them. It's harder because there's definitely a lot more enemies and aggressive, arrangements, faster moving shit, things like that. But it's really just for points and maybe to try to recover some of your health, It's a lot easier when you get that homing weapon I mentioned, which I'm going to show at the end of the video. That way you'll know which weapon to try to get first, because it's a really good weapon. I'm not going to show it being used here because I didn't end up using it on this version of the game. So, but I will show me unlocking it at the end of the skill tree. So I believe there's only 12 stages, so this is pretty far. This is where the game kept crashing on me on Switch, so I was unable to get much farther than this. It just would crash completely. You want to destroy these rocks ahead of time so that you can move through safely. But aside from that, you got the same enemies, just more aggressive patterns. They come at you faster. So you got to be ready to move faster, and you got to, obviously not play like this, but you got to be aware of what's going on. It looks like you died when you hit into those rocks, but it's just a temporary knockback, but it probably does good damage. I'm going to try to avoid that. I think I completed this stage and still didn't lose my life. I think it was really close. I will show when I go out to the continue screen. I'm not sure how much farther I got. Not much farther before I used the continue, but I beat most of the game on this first life. So yeah, it's pretty much the same shit while you're clearing out the rocks, just to have a little room to move. And as long as you're rapidly mashing, it's pretty easy to take out the rocks. But yeah, it gets tough to not take any damage at this point. I didn't have it down that well, you know what I mean? This part's kind of tricky. I usually always get hit when these squids start firing at me or launching themselves at me. They're pretty much like suicide bombers. So that can be tricky. My best tip for that is to try to shoot them before they hit into you, but I didn't get a consistent method with that. I usually always get hit on that part. So I don't have any great tips. This game doesn't seem to have any difficulty settings. It's just adventure mode, Which I think it would have been cool if it had some difficulty settings to give it a little bit more replay. So yeah, for this guy, what you want to do is kind of just rotate around in a clockwise or counterclockwise circle. Just pick a direction and go in a circle. And keep moving. Don't fuck around too much. Like, you don't want to stay in one place for too long. When he puts his little shields up, you can kind of stay still for a little while. I don't know what he's really doing there. I try to stay away from those circles, but I don't think they damage you. I don't really know what he's doing. Maybe he's just blocking and not taking damage or some shit. But the main thing with this guy's first phase is to keep going in circles and just keep highlighting those purple things on his body. and keep launching off your homing at those things. And as long as you keep moving in circles, eventually you're going to highlight them all and take them all out. And you'll get to his last phase. And you can see I was down to my little bit of health here. I was down to the end. It was getting really close. I almost fucked it up. The way the health works is you get these pink hearts, which are your main health. And when all the pink hearts are gone, you're dead. But the yellow ones, I guess, are like a sub-health system within the pink hearts. So, the yellow hearts will go down a certain amount, and then your pink heart is depleted, kind of thing. So here we're almost done with this first phase. It goes on for quite a bit. You got to try to take out all those little bulbs on his body. And just keep going in circles and try to get them all. I was getting sloppy because I was trying to hit these little hard-to-reach areas. So now for this is the second phase. For this, just keep firing rapid bullets mainly, and you'll take out all the enemies he's firing at you. Now when he gets close, I used slow motion here. Perfect time to use it. And I just mashed the shit out of the button. I was able to pretty much wipe him out before he could barely do anything. So you can do that if you got the slow motion. If not, the idea is going to be when he's getting close to you, keep firing rapidly on his head, and when he gets ready to swipe you, you want to do the same thing you did with the crab and other similar attacks. Go on the opposite side where those yellow arrows are not at, is where you want to go. So that's all you got to know for that. But it can be a little tricky. That's why I saved up my slow motion for that specific part, because I knew that it could be kind of fucking irritating. For some reason, it was giving me some trouble. So now this is where I continued, I believe. I didn't show it, but I died on the boss of this stage. So, I was able to, on a single life, I was able to get all the way to the boss of this stage. And that's where I died. But I edited that out, so now you're seeing me from a fresh continue right now. Remember, you only have about 2 or 3 continues. So, it's limited. But you will get stronger and stronger every time if you upgrade. So, same thing here. Now, this stage is kind of tough because the game is getting pretty aggressive now because you got enemies firing at you very quickly on this stage, and the big challenge here is that you got obstacles all over the fucking place. So, you want to move to a different side to dodge the projectiles, but you can't really do that anymore. So the trick is, I didn't do it too well here, but the trick is you want to more use the vertical portion of the screen on this stage. You want to stay, obviously, in a safe spot away from the obstacles, but you want to kind of like, say, stay at the bottom of the screen and bait out a flurry of shots. And then when you hear the shot sound, move all the way to the top of the screen and let them pass under you. And then bait the top shots, move back down. You know what I mean? So you want to get it all done in a very small space, vertically, pretty much. You want to mainly be doing your dodging vertically in this stage by baiting the shots out to either your upper or your lower position and then switching to the opposite position. It's kind of hard to explain. I did a bad job here, but I found that worked the best for me when I was doing well. Not that I mastered this stage by any means, but this was a particularly bad run of the stage, I think. So for this guy, first thing I like to do is take out his cannons on his shoulders. So, be aware when he fires them, he's going to fire them, so just move. I think they're somewhat homing in on your last location, I think, because they seem to be kind of angling towards your location. And they can be tricky. And of course, I like to take them out first because it's less projectiles that I got to deal with when I take them out. Now, he puts these shields up, but they don't seem very effective. And you can just fire on whatever you want when he has the shield up and still damage it. So, you want to take the cannons out first, then you got to take out each piece of armor. The tricky thing is his laser that he's swiping around. I never really got good at dodging that. I don't have any great tips for that. I ended up using my slow motion again. I don't know if I used it effectively. But, yeah, you got to really watch out for that laser. And it's hard to, I think it always goes in the same swiping pattern every time. So once you know where it's going to go, obviously you got to find the safe spots and just be in that safe spot. Similar to what you do with the crab, but I just didn't understand I never really figured out his laser pattern. Yeah, I pretty much always got hit by it. So it was really sloppy. I kind of bullshitted my way through this fight. But after you take off all his armor pieces, then you just go for the head and finish that off. So at the very least, from this tutorial, you see that you got to take out all the armor first and then go for the head. But it was really a sloppy fight. So this is the final stage. And I used another continue here. I think I got maybe halfway through the stage and then died and lost another continue. Because you see that boss pretty much almost finished me off already. So I came into the next stage with very little health. So, like I said, not a great demonstration. And this shit's going to be sloppy too, but it will show me beating the game at least. This is the successful attempt at the level. So, same kind of thing, but like I said, it's getting pretty damn aggressive by this point in the game. And you got to be pretty damn good at dodging to not take damage at this point. So, I mean, I was starting to get hit a lot in the last few stages. I didn't have it down to that level, you know. I'd have to practice a lot more to get it down better. But, you know, the same principle, I think, applies. It's just you got to execute it really, really well. I do think that understanding, though, how the projectiles work is pretty much, like, key to the game. If I was going to get better at this game, you know, I would apply that knowledge and just try to, you know, improve at anticipating everything. And, of course, some of the patterns are fixed as well. So, some patterns repeat, you know, always. So, you know, you'll know what to do on those sections. But a lot of it is based on your position on the screen is what a lot of this game is based on. So, in that way, it makes the game very challenging, or, you know, at least it makes the game more adaptive. So I like that, because you do really have to react to things, and you have to be good at baiting the bullets out. And there's definitely a whole method to it. So it's cool. So after you go through all this bullshit, now we're at the final boss. Now, I had a power spike happen during this boss fight. Luckily, I have this battery backup hooked up to all my consoles and PCs, so what that means is that, you know, if my power goes out for a few minutes or whatever, I'll be okay. Or if it's a power spike, you know, my TV will shut off, because I don't have my TV hooked up to the battery backup, but I do have my system. So you're going to see me pause the game for about 30 seconds. That's because I had a power spike that almost ended my last boss fight. So it was like every time I played this game, it seemed like something wanted to fuck me over. You know, I had 2 crashes back-to-back on the Yuzu emulator on the Switch version, and I think it crashed to me a third time. I think it may have crashed on me another time with that emulator, you know, far into the game each time. So I wasted a lot of fucking time, but I did get credit for my stars that I earned at least, so I was able to upgrade stuff. But I couldn't use it in the Switch version because it kept crashing, so I gave up on the Switch version. But of course, I was doing it through the emulator, so it's a little different. But the idea with this boss is very simple. You got to shoot all those glowing sections so that they become all muddy and shitty looking. So after you've cleared all, you know, every side, then the boss's weakness opens up. So you got to take out all the shiny surfaces, which are regular bullets, or maybe homing. But you got to take out all those shiny sides. Once you've eliminated all those and it's all dull sides, then that's when the boss's weakness comes out. And then it'll fire lasers that are very easy to avoid. You know, the only time I get hit by the laser that it shoots is because I'm getting greedy and trying to get extra shots in, but it's quite easy to avoid. The hard thing with this boss is that, you know, there's a lot of enemies coming through firing at you the whole time. So that got kind of sloppy. And then, of course, when the power went out and I unpaused the game, it kind of threw me off a little bit too, but at least I was able to finish it. I thought I lost the recording for a moment, which I was fucking agitated, because then I gotta, you know, I would most likely play through the whole game again to get the recording, but I don't really like replaying shit, you know, unless I want to replay the game, but not just to record it again. It's fucking annoying. But yeah, taking out the enemies, same way, you know, paint them with your homing mainly, and just, you know, dodge as we've been dodging. Don't get too greedy is the main thing with this boss. You know, don't get too greedy trying to take out the shiny surfaces or the boss's weak spot that comes out. But once that boss's weak spot takes a certain amount of damage, it ends the fight. So now you have the final pattern, I believe, where there's a lot of shiny surfaces you got to take out. So this one takes the longest. But you're mainly just kind of circling around and trying to get shots in when you can, but, you know, you don't want to get too greedy or you'll end up taking a lot of damage. So that's the main idea with this fight. It's really not too hard, but it is pretty aggressive with the enemies. But it's a fun final boss. It's not too frustrating or anything. So this is when my power went out. It was just the power spike, but my TV went off, so then I got to turn it back on and unpause the game, so it takes a little while. Didn't take too long, but it kind of threw me off a little bit. I think I got hit shortly after I unpaused. Maybe not. But, you know, it kind of throws off your rhythm, because I was kind of pissed off. Initially, I thought the fucking shit went off, you know, but I forgot I had the battery backup, so at least it saved it. But yeah, once you get all these shiny surfaces all doled out, then you're going to have the final, the final boss weakness will pop up again. And I think I'll finish it off this time. I think I was getting pretty greedy near the end because I was like, I really wanted to fucking finish it off. I was really trying to get fucking greedy. I was getting kind of frustrated, kind of tense, you know. So I started getting real sloppy. But you don't need to play like that, you know. Unless you have a lot of health, then fuck it. But I didn't really have a lot of health to be toying around like that. I should have played a little careful. But yeah, I was getting kind of aggressive, kind of irritated. But yeah, that's it. So hopefully that will help you. I think the main thing that I had to offer my tutorial was the understanding of how to dodge projectiles. I think is key, you know. And I actually read that in someone else's review of the game, so I'm not going to take credit for understanding how that worked. But I was able to figure it out once I read a little bit about it, and I was able to. It clicked for me after I read that. So I thought that'd be a good piece of information to put out there. Now, I edited out the ending, but after you beat the game, you'll get 500 stars too. So if you want to beat the game again, you'll have even more upgrades you can do with those stars. So now I'm showing some of the upgrades I'm doing here. Just a few. I want to show you a particular weapon. But one of the upgrades I'm doing, of course, you want to get the yellow heart upgrades, and you want to get those clocks because they'll give you more slowdown time with that special move. So those are some good things to get. You want to get the homing thing. See the target? The red target? You want to get that because that gives you more homings that you can paint. But the main thing was that lightning chaser, I think it's called. Now make sure you go in your equipment menu after you buy the lightning chaser and make sure you equip that weapon. Don't think that the game is going to default it for you. Whenever you get a new ability, it's automatic, I think. Like, you don't have to equip that, but if you get a new weapon, you got to go in the equipment menu, and you got to actually equip the weapon. So make sure you do that. I will have a review soon. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.